Welcome back. In this video, we are going to be talking about even more ways to play crashes, so this is going to be a very quick video. The first type of crash that we are going to be talking about is called an AV crash. For this one, you'll hold the cymbals up here at port, as you remember what port is from earlier videos. The difference is the prep is 2 counts before the crash instead of just 1. The reason why is because this is a 2-part prep, of which each one is going to be a snapping motion. For the first prep, this comes 2 counts before the crash itself. You go to what we call A. It is very similar to tap, the same type of angle, except the bells are going to be at your eye level still, the same as port. Also, when you hold the cymbals, you want to make sure that the cymbals are feel like they're angled inwards like this, so that they're actually not flaring outwards, because normally the cymbals will flare out if you hold them at A. The second part of the prep is called V. This is 1 count before the crash. You just flip the angle with the elbows pulled in towards themselves. Again, the angle will be smaller than what you would expect. Also, you'll want the right cymbal, the bottom edge of the right cymbal, to be above the bottom edge of the left cymbal. We call this displacement. Again, A is out like this, and V is in like this. On the count of the crash, you'll snap the cymbals together like this. The bottom of the cymbal will make what we call the impact, like we define with orchestral crashes, and the flam will be the rest of the cymbals coming together. Like with other videos, here are some examples of AV crashes. Note that they are most often played at port. If I find any examples of them playing anything other than port AV crashes, I'll try to add that in. The next type of crash that we are going to be talking about is called a drop crash. For this one, you'll hold the cymbals out at orchestral, and the prep for the crash itself will come 2 counts before the crash, just like with an AV crash. The difference between this and AV is that the left cymbal will stay at orchestral, just like if you were playing a regular crash. The right cymbal, however, will be at the same height as port, but offset so that it is in front of your shoulder, or if it is so that it is in front of the edge of the other cymbal. Again, the right cymbal will be over the edge of the left cymbal. Notice the displacement right here. They're not directly at the edge, they're a little bit in, about 2 inches, like what you would normally see with a regular crash. A little bit before the count of the crash itself, you'll drive the right cymbal downwards towards the edge of the left cymbal. Again, the cymbal itself will be vertical the entire time. And on the count of the crash, you drive the right cymbal downwards through the impact until you reach the flam motion. A tendency for new players is to flatten out the cymbals as you're playing drop crash. To avoid this, you want to make sure that the right cymbal goes downwards vertically all the way until you reach the flam. The left cymbal will move a little bit as you hit the displacement, or what we call the impact. But the right cymbal should be vertical nearly the entire time. The main reason why flattening out the cymbals is bad is because when you flatten the cymbals like that, like you're resetting to orchestral, the cymbals will land directly on top of each other and create a vacuum. We call this a pop. So instead of getting a crash sound when you actually play the note, you'll hear just a vacuum or emptiness, meaning there's no sound that comes out. And just like before, here are some examples of drop crashes. Just a side note, the cymbals themselves are obviously bigger than my drumsticks, so pay attention to the angles that the drum corps use as opposed to me with just my sticks. The final type of crash is called a funk. It is very similar to an AV, except it has a more legato motion to it. So when you have an AV crash, you have snapping motions to the crash itself. For a funk, you have a more legato, smooth motion rather than the snaps. I'll use orchestral for example. So for the funk itself, you'll have the prep 2 counts before the crash. For the first motion, you'll move to the picture of A. So remember, A is this motion and V is this motion or position. You'll have the A and the V positions. Of course, they're offset for orchestral. But rather than snapping to them, you'll take a smooth motion to them. You'll still land on the same counts, but you'll take a more smooth approach to the counts themselves. Note that the displacement is still there. And of course, the count of the crash, you just play the crash as usual. Like before, here are some examples of funks being played by independent groups. Just a side note about these crashes in the video so far, all of them will have the same graceful sound as a regular orchestral crash. They shouldn't sound harsh, clanky, or even like a pop. They should all sound like a regular orchestral crash as you hear them in a regular show. That is all for this video. Come back next time where we will be talking about even more types of notes. So these are going to be called dings, sizzles, zings, and hi-hats. Ooh. That is all for this video. Come back next time where we will be talking about even more types of notes. So these are going to be called dings, zings, sizzles, and what's the other one? Just cut it. The last type of crash is called a funk. For this one, you'll have a very... No, cut.